everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our Paws on Netflix podcast.
Today we're covering the hilarious Netflix anime that's actually still fairly new, Komi Can't Communicate.
And confirmed for season 2.
Yes, you already know it's going to be another podcast on this.
Now, Komi is considered the most beautiful and perfect girl at school, but she doesn't speak to anyone except Tadano, who's considered plain, and he learns that Komi has social anxiety and is too nervous to talk to anybody.
Quite literally, yeah.
So, he's now helping her reach her goal of making 100 friends at school. I don't even think there are 100 students. So
it looks like it by the end.
So somehow he's going to help her make 100 friends.
Yes. And before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to updates on future podcasts and want to pause videos.
Absolutely.
Yeah, by the time it gets to the end, you think it's only like a few students at the school, like a regular amount. By the time it gets to the end, there's like a whole city's worth of students. Like, you sure it's not their own country or something?
So, we had actually seen lots of things about Komi Can't Communicate on Twitter, and actually one of our viewers had recommended Komi Can't Communicate before we even knew what it was.
Right.
And then once we learned, like, oh yeah, okay, we got it, sure, we'll watch it. And then, of course, it wasn't available until they did a Netflix exclusive.
Yes.
So the first few episodes were interesting, but we weren't sure if we were going to complete it. And then they had the episode where one of the crazy students kidnaps Tadano. And Rascal's like, I don't want to watch anymore. I'm like, but I don't want to see anyone right now. We need to take a break. I'm like, man, it's just a show. It's not real. She didn't kill him.
She almost did. Okay?
And then you get to the episode after, and after that, it just became, this is a show you have to watch, and it is fun to watch.
And then, like I said, it's already new for season 2, so you already know it's hilarious before you even get started with the video itself.
Don't watch it, but watch it.
And it is based on a manga. We did find out it was a manga first, and then it kind of quickly got a Netflix show, which is happening quite a bit for a lot of these new mangas. Like, they get like an anime like pretty soon after they just have a few volumes out. So now we have this, and it kind of does end on a cliffhanger, but there's no like big overarching story other than her making the friends. It stays a slice of life school anime like 40 others. But it's still really fun to watch, and they either explain to you what's going on or what she's saying, how she's feeling or something. If she doesn't write it, then they tell you in these little white boxes next to her, and the boxes kind of follow her around. And only like a couple characters are aware that they're there.
So she is attending school with a class of interesting students.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
One of them is Najimi, and Najimi is loud and bossy and has been friends with Tadano from earlier in school.
Right.
And she ends up making friends with her second. Mm-hmm. Well, with Tadano's second. Mm-hmm. And Najimi is just, Najimi or Najimi, whichever it's pronounced, is like this character that's put in there to, it's almost like this character's an anchor. Mm-hmm. Because, again, she's bossy. And she wants to tell Komi and Tadano what to do, and everyone else what to do, and suggest everything, and where they should go, and what they should do, and how they should behave, and who should make friends with, and it's just like this the whole time. Mm-hmm. And the thing that's hilarious about it, again, Najimi is so loud, and everyone says, Najimi's loud. Najimi's loud. And I'm sorry I keep saying she, but Najimi is really they. So yes. Forgive me. Najimi is hilarious. And the teachers just seem to let Najimi have their way.
At least until the festival, which,
yes.
which every anime ever needs some type of festival of some sort. So, yes, they do eventually have one of those by the end, and that's the only thing. It's like, okay, you're going too far.
And I think one way that Najimi is also an anchor is because in one of the episodes, Tadano says you're different from how you were at school, and Najimi explains, and then Najimi's worried that he's going to say something and people won't like them, and he doesn't, and you can see that there's a real friendship between them, and because Najimi kind of understands that feeling of not feeling comfortable and trying to work out whom to be friends with. But now Najumi's gotten over that awkward phase.
Yeah.
And it's kind of almost like they want to help Komi to do the same thing.
Yes.
And Najumi really seems to like Komi for Komi.
Yes.
Which I do like.
Right. And then as each person is introduced and there becomes a character and a friend, they get to all have their own personalities, their own weirdness, their own traits.
That pink hair girl is crazy.
Yeah.
She's so crazy. Neither one of us remembers her name, but she is a lunatic, and she needs to be put into a special place.
Yes, and they got one that's sort of like Jet Black Wind from Psyche K, who seems to think everything's
with one eye patch.
Like,
I
why?
don't think she needs it.
No, she just has it. We got one that's the green hair that seems to think, oh, she's the dog. And then she's like, but you're saying that yourself. She didn't tell you were. Then you had Stalker Girl. Yeah, like every person is almost crazier than the last. But they all bring something. And even with how weird they are, they genuinely care about Komi, even if it is extreme to some points. Because they get to a point with the school, they treat her like she's a deity, and she's like, what are you doing? It's like, just by her presence being there, it's like, calm down!
And they keep calling her a small G-O-D every episode, and everyone wants to worship her, and talking about how beautiful she is, and everyone
then they
wants
get
to be her friend.
And they get to Tadano, and they, until they're friends with him, they don't really treat him
Tadano's like Hori. He's like,
well,
Mozaki-kun.
Well, they don't, to be fair, they don't treat Hori like crap sometimes, because they've got the times.
I mean in the sense that they go, why is she with Tadano?
Yeah.
That's the question in everyone's head.
Yeah.
It's like, why is she friends with him, and why are they together
You
all
don't
the time?
deserve her, and it's like, well, you calm down, people. And he just kind of just takes it like, I'm used to it now. So
each episode is split into 3 to 4 little segments that give a little story about something that's happened during the day.
It's kind of like Psyche K.
Right. And one of the parts that's really hilarious that we have to mention is in one of the beginning episodes where Komi ends up picking up a key to give back to this guy. And he's a bully, and Tadano, everyone's afraid of him. And of course, when you see the show, she has trouble speaking, period. Sometimes it takes her 10 times to say one word. So she's trying to give him the key. And instead of saying, I have your key, or here's your key, she says, I, key, you. He's like, oh my gosh, she's going to kill me. Oh my God. And he's afraid, he runs away. and she's still going,
And it's like, just give me back your key.
that was one of the scenes that made this like a lock for us. Like, okay, we gotta watch this. This is freaking hilarious.
Yes. And as from then on, it just gets crazier and crazier. It's still slice of life, but all the characters feel like there's something surreal, like the Death Life of Psyche K, which beginningly maybe was inspired by that because it's not a gag anime still, because there are a lot of times where it's pretty quiet. It has its moments like a regular show, but it has so many hilarious parts and gags and extreme moments that I feel like it was inspired, like it was a almost female version of that, because there's so many similarities from it.
Now, the only parents or family we've met so far is Komi's. And oh my gosh, this is an experience if you haven't seen this show. It's unlike anything you've ever seen on any other anime. It's just, her family is
something else. Okay. You see, like, you just have their mom and dad and her brother there at the main house, and then later you see her grandmother and cousin.
Now, her mom is just like with Momo and her mom on MHA. She looks just like her mom, but her mom has all her hair cut very short.
Yeah.
And she's the opposite of Komi in that she's loud and outgoing and just crazy, which is why maybe she gets along with Najumi.
Yeah.
But she's just the opposite of Komi, except she's just as beautiful. So when she comes around, all the students are drooling over her mom and want to be around her mom, and then she's embarrassed, and she always wants her mom to leave every time she comes.
It gets hard.
Poor mom.
So she's like, oh, I'm here. What are you doing? Go home. Leave now.
And then her dad.
The dad that's where she gets her silence from. He doesn't say much either. Like, he spoke one time in the whole season, and his thing is that she pretty much got the otherwise the head turning thing from people from him when they say, oh, what a handsome man. That's a beautiful girl. So she gets it from him and the silence from him.
Right.
And then it is like he generally wants to talk to her and get closer to her, but just like her, he's kind of hesitant to speak a lot. But
And
when
somehow they have these conversations without saying anything.
yeah. It's just, I don't know how you two communicate. And then you have the brother who so far hasn't said anything.
But he's like a guy-looking version of Komi, so the girls think he's hot until he doesn't say anything.
Yeah, and then he just leaves like, you know. And then it says he gets nervous and leaves, so he doesn't even act nervous with them. He just kind of acts aloof, but he's nervous on the inside and thinking, oh my gosh, he's so cool. It's like every part of her family has some degree of attractiveness where it's like a magnet. It's like, what the heck's going on?
And then the grandma is really sweet.
Yes, and well, we didn't see her leave the house, but you're assuming she's gonna have the same effect on people too, which is hilarious. But she was I guess the matriarchy, and they kind of go to her for advice and tell her things that have happened so far in the family, what they need to work on, and all that. Which actually is a pretty nice thing, so they kind of visit often.
Until
so everyone
she asks to see her phone.
Yeah, and then he said, then Tadano's number. Said, who's the Tadano? I don't like him. It's like, but you don't even know him. You just read the name.
Her eyes get big.
And Komi's like, no, take it away. Oh, and then I definitely gotta get to that. But continue.
So it's hilarious. Their family dynamic is like the opposite of the Bakugo family in MHA. It's hilarious and it's funny. And again, some of these expressions that Komi has, it's just like she goes from being this beautiful, perfect character to having these giant bug eyes and shaking, and all the little lines around her like she's shaking, like she's freezing. And poor Tadano.
Yeah.
Somehow he understands everything she's saying without her speaking.
Yes.
So you know he's going to end up with her. You know he's going to end up being a ship because he acts just like her dad. Somehow he understands everything she's saying without her saying a word.
Right? And it even used it as a gag at one point where she wanted to call him. It was too nervous. It was like a summer thing, and they had done it in one episode all of summer. And she finished all her homework. She wanted to call him. And she started dialing, and then she hung up. She was too nervous and stuff. And you think it's this long process, and eventually Najimi kind of cuts in and says, "Oh, go to the pool. I invited Tadano. She wants to go," and all that. And then it gets to Tadano's side, and then he's gonna call her. He said, "Huh? You know, she's probably finished all her homework early in the summer." Then he's gonna call her and say, "Oh, no, wait, if I do that, it's gonna be a busy signal because she's probably calling me right now. And I better wait a little bit. I'll wait till she actually calls again." Then she called again. And it's like, how the heck did you know she was doing like miles away from you? He knew thing for thing she was doing.
And that was hilarious. It was.
And then it gets to this point where, like you said, he knows her automatically. And then you kind of get to this point, like it's like halfway through how she feels about him, and I guess you, like I said, you kind of figured it out anyway. But it's still funny when it happens.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna tell.
And they show this thing for another symptom of social anxiety is when people kind of get nervous about every little thing they're gonna say. So she kind of has this thing in her head when she can't sleep, and it says they worry about what they're gonna say when they're spoken to, and they think they're gonna say the wrong thing. So to demonstrate that, she kind of lies awake at night, and she like has a sort of dramatizations of talking to different people, and each time she says something or responds, they got all these word bubbles and stuff like, why did I say that? That was the right thing. Why did I get done? All that. And she would be nervous and shaking and all that. And then it's like, okay, and then speaking to Tadano, it's like, oh, you mean, that's an easy mistake. You just misspelled the word, right? They have two words that mean the same thing. It's easy to mix up. It's like Hungary and hungry. And Turkey, I didn't know Turkey was a country with all this weird crap. And then she actually went to sleep on that.
And there's one more too, where they take her to go shopping for clothes because she doesn't have any clothes, she says, outside of her uniform. So Najimi, the psycho girl, Tadano, and is there one more?
Yeah, one other girl.
Goes shopping with her for clothes. So she tries on all these outfits, and some are cute, and some are like, no, don't wear that. And before they even finished, I said, okay, she's gonna want Tadano's outfit. And sure enough, he has this real cute dress with simple shoes and a little hat, and she loves it. So she buys it. And
she-
every time you see her outside of school, she's got the dress on. She puts pants on with it. She wears gym shoes with it. She wears this with it. She does that with it. But every place she goes, she wears the dress that Tadano
It's like,
picked
what
out.
the heck? Not like you wear other clothes besides this. And the last thing is that after a certain point in there, like all the way till like I think I guess like the festival arc towards the end of the season, there's this thing after a while where I think she's trying to get alone with him. And then every time she's like, it starts off like that, now it becomes like, hey, I brought some friends. And you're like, why can't you just go away for 5 minutes? She's always trying to get alone with him now. And no one else like, wait, why do you want to be alone with him all of a sudden?
Right. I love it. It's filled with humor and joy and fun, and it's just, I don't know how to describe it besides delightful. It doesn't sound like it's that great with the delightful, but it is. And if you haven't seen it, you should watch it. But what I really do like is what you brought up earlier. A lot of us aren't aware of the social anxiety being to the extent of like this where people can't speak or interact. So I think it's wonderful that in a fun way, we are learning more about how some other people are not able to interact. And then maybe those of us who watch this anime or read the manga and don't experience it can be not only be more empathetic but also more understanding and can try to help these people to come out of their shells and be the wonderful selves.
Yeah.
So I really like that about this anime.
Hey, brother Koshi's loving it too. Remember, he's watching
Yes!
the
And
show.
he drew a picture of Komi.
Yes.
So, if you've seen Komi Can't Communicate, let us know what you think in the comments below. Did you watch it? Well, we watched it subbed. It's not available dubbed, at least on Netflix. How did you watch it? Who's your favorite character? Did you love it from the first episode, or did it take a few for you to love it like us?
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, it's available, as far as we know, exclusively on Netflix. And as we mentioned, there's going to be a season 2, so look out for our second podcast on the second season, because we're definitely going to be watching this.
Yes, and be sure to like, subscribe, and click notification bell to get updates on future podcasts and more pod videos.
Absolutely. We love you. Thank you for subscribing and for listening to us. We really, really appreciate you.
Yes. So, thank you so much for watching Mask Entertainment.
And I'm Mom Entertainment.
Have a fantastic day.
Peace.